Hello everybody, and welcome back to another witness analysis video. I'm like mega dosing on caffeine for the day. But maybe it'll bring some entertainment value. In any case. I think the reason I'm over here is because I was checking to see whether or not the game used black and white in panels with the other colors, I think. Which it does, but very sparingly. In any case. Looks like Peaches wants to join in. Come here. I know you're going to want up here for like 3 seconds, and then you're going to want down. Anyway, so this video, we should be going to... This is not the right way. We should be going to the top of the mountain and going into the mountain, I believe. I think this is what we were planning on covering. I don't remember because I did not check what I was planning on covering, but that seems as good of a thing as any, is to start covering what's in the mountain. Because... what else is there? I think I've not gone and gotten the other lasers that I'm missing. I should have done this off recording. So I don't have all lasers, but that's not really necessary at this point, and that will be kind of covered later anyway. I'm going to do some more spoilery coverage. I think I've taken... I don't know. I have no idea optimal routing through this game, but I don't like being leaned back here this much because I'm certain that the game's noise is too loud. Well, there goes Peaches anyway. She's pretty finicky about that. So okay, so I actually haven't climbed up here on stream, have I? So I should probably analyze that a little bit. Pretty sure I have not climbed up here. I did go to that one puzzle up there, the one inside of here, the little vault there. I don't know how you describe it. Anyway, yeah. So it's interesting. I think that going up requires walking across this tree here, right? Which is like not exactly an obvious thing to walk across, right? Like it's kind of perilous looking as far as walking across it, and there is actually a little secret route over here as well, although I guess we'll cover that later because I think there's a triangle panel over there, and we're going to cover the triangle panels, but that'll kind of be its own thing. And yeah, being able to stand on the statue's head is interesting, especially because if you have not noticed that there's a statue, this could be a cue to maybe check that out later, right? And you get a decent view of things here, I would say. Not nearly as good as you get from the top of the mountain, but you do get to see a fair amount of things. There's one of these wind flowers here. I do wonder why there is a windflower there. It's interesting. Usually the windflowers are near areas, but there it's there. So we've done that one. So keep on going up. There's some interesting little spots where you can look out. But we do go through this sort of transitionary zone where the color grading shifts somewhat. Which I always notice going up here, that the color grading shifts a little bit to make everything a little bit colder, temperature-wise. Just a little bit colder. Now we're at the top of the mountain. And what lasers are we missing? I think we're missing symmetry. I want to say that's... Oh yeah, and I'm also missing treetops because just save game snafu stuff. Having to load earlier saves because I did things and then forgot that I was needed to make a backup and I didn't make a backup, so then I have a polluted save that's got stuff solved that I need to solve for a video. Anyway, nice little hidden statue here, and this sort of different arcs here. I am sure somebody knows what the different arches are meant to represent. I don't know if it's something to do with physics. That would be my guess. But I don't know. I do not know. I know John's given a lecture talking somewhat about this, and that it's a reference to Upon a Winter's Night, a Traveler, or whatever that book's called. I actually have a copy of it over there. I just haven't read it yet. So that's why I don't know that much about that, because I need to read that. So, anyway, you might come up here at any particular time playing the game, but most people seem to do most or not all of the, or almost all of the areas before actually even going up here. There's a little mysterious panel here. Might come back to that later. Anyway, most of the time, just due to the fact that it's kind of hard to get up here, people tend to come to this late. There's actually like a little bit of a design flaw with the game, I would say. Like, it's cool that the end is at the top of this mountain, like that's very cool, but it's like a little bit of a flaw with the game that you only have to do, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you only have to do 7 out of the, I think, 11? Is it 11 lasers? Anyway, I think it's something like that. You only have to do 7 out of 11 lasers, but it's very rare that people come up here and go into the mountain having only done 7 lasers. Usually they either come up here very early and they don't have enough and they think, oh, I'll have to come back after I finish all the areas. So they just assume that they have to finish all the areas and then finish all the areas. Or they just do all the areas before they go here. So usually that's what happens, so it doesn't end up mattering so much that you can get into the ending with partial completion. So yeah, so that's something in my own game, Taiji, that I've kind of tried to adjust, since I have a similar structure where you can get to the ending of the game with partial completion. Instead, I have like the entrance to that ending area is like close to the start of the game, so you're like very likely to, it's in a spot where you're very likely to pass by it multiple times. Like if you think of like the town in this, that it's an area that you pass through a lot. It's kind of like more like that. So I don't know. So far, that does seem to happen with testers, that it's more often that they finish the game, or they do the ending of the game before they finish all the areas. So I think it's interesting. Anyway, with that said, we got some statues here. This guy's holding this box. This guy's holding a cable. He's almost holding the cable like it was a leash for this guy, which is sort of interesting. In any case, yeah, so you'd have to notice, if you've been up here before, you'd have to notice that like this is now a thing that's open. Of course, that powers this very peculiar panel. It's a hexagon panel. I guess the actual panel design is not a hexagon, but the puzzle design is not a hexagon. Puzzle design is like a plus. So this is an interesting puzzle in the sense that it does integrate kind of two of the aspects of the game. In that you've got sort of a logic puzzle type thing with the black and white dots. And then of course it ends up being the case that like we can't draw a line through these statues, so it's also a perspective puzzle. So there's sort of like two aspects of the game, right? One is about kind of the logic, and one is about like what you see in the environment, and this kind of combines those two into one puzzle. It's really three puzzles, right? But it's one panel that you have to solve three different ways. So, as far as solving this goes, now I have to actually solve it. I want to say... Trying to remember how this works. Yeah, I think it's something more like, I don't think I can go through that foot. Yeah. I think if we have the center line, then we can go through it. But that doesn't matter because we can't block that off anyway. Yeah, so it might take a while for a player to actually even figure out that this is about perspective. There are some nice, if somewhat violational, I wanted to say violet, but I think that sounds like the color, but let's say violet as in the sense of violation. That when you start, you lose some of the endings. I don't think that happens on any other puzzle in the game. But I want to say probably that's just because it makes the puzzle more interesting, right? It may actually be the case that it's impossible to solve it going from here to this exit or to this exit. But players probably spent a lot of time trying these exits and not understanding that like they needed to go across. So in any case, so you got three different kind of lines across the panel that you have to solve along these kind of divisions of the panel, like these little triangular sections, sort of along that line, and along that line. So I believe we could do something like, it's not gonna work. We've eliminated that, but the other black one here is really tricky. I always find these a little bit difficult, so I don't know whether to focus on one or just focus on trying to gain progress somewhere. So very easy to isolate white on the bottom here, because you can just do like this. But then it's very tricky to do anything else. There's all this wire in the way as well. Because of course we also can't draw through the wire. This seems promising though. Maybe a further angle. I think that's not exactly the most minimal, but certainly a thing. So one thing I've always wondered, actually, I'm not sure what happens if I solve this completely whilst standing on these things, because they move out of the way, right? Okay, so we've done that one. It sort of splits along that bit, like along that direction, which is a subtle indicator of which one you've done in case you forget. So this one is kind of like trickier. There's pretty much only for each one 2 ways we could think about it, I feel like. Yeah, there's pretty much only 2 ways. We can either stand on the opposite side or stand, I guess that's not entirely true. We could stand on this side. just have to be able to see the entrance and the exit, right? So this one we can't do because we have to end over here, at least from that side. We might be able to do it from this side, though. So, yeah, this looks good. Yeah, we just sort of chop off those two end caps. I should probably talk a little louder than I'm doing. I don't know how loud the wind is here, but it's probably loud. Okay. Not that I can't edit that stuff later, but it's always better if I don't have to edit. Okay, so last one we got to do is... oh yeah, this exit. So, and that's this start. So we can't go from this side because that's just too much obscuring. So we're pretty much stuck to somewhere in this realm. Let's try going as far over as we can and see whether that helps. Does not look like it's going to help. Because I think we need... I was going to say, I think I need this. But... oh, wait. Because we could block off white there. Yes. Okay, so I just need a little bit past that midline there. So I can block white off here, then come back around. So that's definitely the most complicated one. Okay, so if we're standing there, it would just get pushed off by the edge collider, basically. I mean, it's not really an edge collider. This game doesn't do the physics that way, I don't think. That's an interesting thing, right? Because I've watched Casey Muratori, one of the programmers on this game who did the movement system, has a really fascinating lecture talking about how the movement system works in this game. But I still don't really know how that part would work. Man, that's very low res. They don't have the like high res hack put on for panels. You can kind of high res them, but in any case, I don't really know how that would work, like how that part works. If something's moving, how it like pushes you back. That's interesting to think about. There may be some kind of other thing. Seems like the glitchiest parts of the movement system are when things are moving in the environment. Okay. So now we've opened this kind of entrance in here. We can head down the stairs. I'm just kind of thinking about what we see here. So we see this screen inside of this box. Some other screens of things. So what are these all of? These are just all of like little things you might have found or not found. So, geez, Sophia. So that is not actually live update because currently I have that area, the bridge is going the other way. So it's not like a thing that takes a snapshot. Oh, there's a little bit of shadow glitching over in the corner of the screen over there. And before I realize I'm running the game at low. Yeah, so these are all like just pictures around the island, I guess. I feel like just sort of to just establish that maybe these are surveilling the island. I'm not sure. I mean, I think it's supposed to give you a bit of an eerie feeling when you get down here, right? You're supposed to feel like maybe you've been watched, right? Or something. In any case, continuing to head down into the mountain. Oh, do we have a color grade change there? Yeah, we do. You see it change from blue to a bit of a warmer color in here. Bringing some warmer colors out in the light. Very subtle, but It does give it a warmer feeling in here than maybe it would otherwise have. I don't know whether the design of this area is meant to be explicitly a Portal reference, but it's definitely kind of trying to give the same vibes that Portal would give, which is this sense of like a very oppressive and industrial atmosphere and sterile, and it's kind of like the bare minimum overlay that you could put on puzzles, right? Rather than these beautiful environments, it's just essentially like boxes made out of glass and steel, and I don't know what this material is that we're walking on, but some kind of tile, I guess. Drop tile or whatever. Okay, so now we have this interesting panel here that's just kind of there, but it's set up in such a way that, of course, as soon as we draw, we're going to see that, oh, well, this is actually drawing a thing out there, right? There's this opening here, just so you can see that. So solving the puzzle itself shouldn't be too difficult, I would say. Like, you could fairly easily just do whatever to solve it. But then you're going to quickly realize that that didn't actually help you that much. Although you may come over here and say, oh, well, let's do this puzzle, right? I don't actually know if I can do it from this angle, though, because I can't see the exit. I have to actually solve it a little bit differently than that to do that. But after looking around, you might notice that there's some puzzles over here, and puzzles over here. They've got these like bits that are sticking out so that I can't actually do the puzzle from here. And I have to get over there to do it. Sort of enforcing the actual progression through the area. So, yeah, so with this rotating bit, there's pretty much only a few ways we can put that, right? We can do like this. I don't remember what's the exact right solution here, but it seems okay. So it does give us access to this puzzle. Although I'm not sure where I should start, because I feel like I should do a solution that goes along all of those so I don't have to run back and forth, but I don't actually know if that's even possible. I do love how you can only just barely see a little bit of something down there. Like it's very meticulously designed such that you can't really see much from here. Anyway, if we look around in here, we see some other cameras with some odd things. There's a weird panel there. There's some rooms that we haven't seen before. These might come in handy later. Of course, there's an audio recording there, but we're not really talking about the audio recordings as part of this analysis. Just things we haven't seen before here is kind of the setup for all of these screens, right? So that's why I was thinking the other things are maybe meant to establish that that these are places on the island, right? So that when you see these, you would think, well, I don't remember that place, right? What is that anyway, right? Anyway, let's do this one, because this one's right here. So this one's sort of just at a steep angle, but is not, to my recollection, a particularly difficult puzzle. It's just at a steep angle. So there's a 4 and a 4 here. If you were on like a low resolution screen, this might be very difficult to see. So that's 4, and then 4 would go like this. So that's not going to work because we've got white grouped with black on the top and the bottom. So how can we do this? Well, we can pretty easily, I think, go the other way and put the vertical like here and grab that one, and then stick this horizontal here and then grab this one. But that still doesn't work because we still have that black over there. We could potentially do something a little bit odd, like this. We have to have, because this is here and this is here, this has to be at least including that spot. So we know that black has to be inside the shape. So we can't like do something like put the whites in there. We have to do it the other way. Oh, this seems to be working. Okay, so just sort of a winding issue there. Of course, there's a purple wire that's kind of snaking out of there. And it looks like it's going over here somewhere, although it's unclear exactly where it's going at this point. It looks like there's another panel over there. And this one is like... I feel like this is some of the designer's sense of humor here. That, like, if you thought that one was at the point where it was hard to tell what these symbols were, this one's hard to tell. Even like I'm running it at 1080p, there are, even at this angle, they're blurring together. Or I should say, even at this resolution, they're blurring together. But that's a 3 and a 2. We've got black here, and 3 and 2, which is something like this. But of course that doesn't work. So I feel like it makes more sense to do 3 and 2 like this. Oh, but I got black and white in the corners. Okay, so let's isolate white, because otherwise that was fine, I believe. Should probably draw a little bit more slowly so we can get that. Fairly easy puzzle, but that's the thing about it, is like thing that's obscured in some way, right? It's a straightforward puzzle, but it's obscured, which of course also carries over thematically somewhat to these panels. I'm gonna go ahead and do these, even though this is like maybe a bit out of order, but it saves a little time in like terms of reconfiguring stuff. So I get over here to Model Maker's Workshop. Someone who's been kind of building models of architecture. Of course, this is a little bit inscrutable, other than I guess there's a drawing of what's pretty clearly some iteration of the Zen Temple area, because you can see like the little tree cutout stuff over there, and I mean, I'm almost certain these are just literally concept drawings from development on the game, so they're like earlier iterations and stuff of that area where it did not quite have the tree growing out of the middle of it concept yet, but it was sort of the same puzzle design, I guess. It just didn't have that tree in the center, which is really an odd thing that it didn't have those, because that's like half the puzzles in the area, right, are built around that tree. That earlier on, it appears that the area just had like maybe 3 puzzles, right, and that was it. In any case, it's interesting to think about. I guess partly it's interesting to think about this game's production process versus like my own, in that I'm doing everything myself on Taiji, so it's sort of like you don't have that thing of where you send it the 3 puzzle thing that you did to the artist, and they come up with a design for this thing that only has 3 puzzles. You sit around on those 3 puzzles until you come up with more, and then you do the art or whatever. So anyway, so here we've got sort of just this white thing in the way, right? It's also a symmetry, which is interesting. Well, it doesn't particularly matter. Oh, actually, I guess it does matter where we draw. That's the thing, right? That's the trick of this puzzle, is that, well, it doesn't matter where we draw, right? because they're both the same color. That's like what you've learned, but it matters in one way, which is that we can draw through that on the symmetry line, right? Whereas if I'm drawing here, my cursor can't go through there, so I can't draw through there. So it's like a slight violation of the rules as you maybe have understood them thus far. How do we do this? I think we just do like this. Oh, nope, because I got black with white. Black is with white, so... I can also go through that way, but I don't know that that's good either. So we can't separate white from the center there. It's going to be a lot, probably, of me fiddling with puzzles in this. I think this area is probably going to get split into at least 2 videos because it's one of the more substantial areas in the game in terms of difficult and time-consuming puzzles. Even for me, who's played through the game a couple times. You know, I'm not like a speedrunner, so I don't have everything memorized. But that's probably more interesting to watch, to be honest, to watch somebody who's like not got it totally memorized back to front, I think. Because it's more easy for me to kind of think about what the thought process is of solving the puzzles because I don't have them memorized. Whereas if I had them memorized, I'd just be like, well, this is a solution, right? There's like a certain amount of that that's worthwhile. Okay, I think we got to do like this. Yeah. A little bit tricky. A little bit tricky. But yeah, that's the cool thing with that is, right, that the symmetry does have an effect because you can go through that if you start here, but you can't the other way. So this one's really cool because this one is like you just have hidden information by these bars, right? And so this is the only puzzle in the game, I believe, that requires you to step outside of like the zone that it forces you into, right? Like puzzles in the game tend to snap you in front of them, right? And this is the only one that you can't solve if you stand where it forces you to. You actually have to like learn that you can fight that and do it outside of there. But yeah. So the interesting thing about it, right, is that there's a black and a white here that are stuck behind this. So if you're standing here, that does mean standing here, this is impossible because there's no way you can separate those because you can't draw through that little piece of rebar or whatever. I guess it's not rebar, but yeah, it's interesting to think about. Like, there's a lot of destroyed things here, things that are falling apart. Perhaps the game itself is beginning to fall apart at this point. So yeah, so solving this is simply about like shifting your perspective to where you only get like colors under there. So then at this point that should be solvable because we've only got white under these and we can separate the others. But yeah, cool puzzle. I do really like this puzzle. Though with that said, it is a bit odd that it's the only puzzle in the game that's like requires you to pop outside of that spot that it snaps you into. Like it snaps you into a spot that actually just doesn't work. Actually, that might be the case here as well. I don't know though. I want to say it is, actually. Yeah, so this one's just more hidden information, I think, than anything. Yeah, so that one's just hidden information. But you can do it from where you're standing. And it's somewhat unusually well hidden information, I would say. I think there might be something right here. No. No, there isn't. No. In any case. Okay, so now we've solved, and there's a blue wire heading out from these. And heading over here to this yellow thing. And we've also got this magenta, or purple, I would say that's magenta, wire heading here. So we've got 4 wires. They're sort of hard to see until you see some of them lit up, right? There's 2 black things there, and this one's very tight along that edge. Very distressed looking panels. So which side do we go to? I'm going to try to go to that side first because that's the side that I did first when I first played this. An oft hated side to this area, I would say. How do we do this? How do we do this? So we can't just do this, because then white's going to be in the same area with black. I got to go just a little bit around, like this. Then we can do it. Okay. So that's a straightforward solution that covers all of these. So we can do all of these in one go. So, looks like a perfectly normal puzzle. We click here, and okay, this seems fine. And we do our puzzle, right? Except most people are not going to notice that your cursor is like offset a little bit weirdly, right? That's sort of the thing here. Now, the actual puzzle itself. Not particularly difficult, right? That seemed easy. But there's like little subtle things here, and it's one of the things that I like about, I guess I would say I like about this game, is that it starts with something subtle, right? There's just a little bit here that's off. It's just slightly off. So you might not notice. At this point, it's off enough that trying to click the thing doesn't work. Of course, eventually somebody would realize that you have to click there, right? I think somebody said this was easier on the iPad version. I'm kind of wondering, like, do you have to click here on the iPad version, or can you still click there? It's very strange, but in any case. Yeah, so we're just sort of offset, which is one of those things that's like, it doesn't really do anything puzzle-wise. It's just like, oh, that's neat, right? But we're like sort of planting the seed, right, of here's the idea for this set of puzzles, right? Oh, okay, the thing's offset. And now we're at the point where, oh yeah, I almost clicked the thing again. Actually, I should say I did click the thing again. But now we're at the point where it like starts to be a bit of a challenge. But again, it's like not really a difficult puzzle. You just have to actually keep your wits about you a bit, right? So that you can solve it. Because you have to imagine in your mind that space counting, right? And that, okay, I'm not missing any information, right? The thing's tiled perfectly. It's not like this edge immediately abuts this edge on all of these, right? When it's like shifted off. And literally all of these are just like, take the UV mapping of the panel, right? The texture that gets generated for that, and just offset it some way. So this one's cool too. I like this one a lot. Because the thing's rotated just slightly so that these look like they're straight. And this one looks like it's rotated. But obviously it's the opposite of that. Like these are rotatey ones. And the one in the bottom corner is not. Again, I want to say fairly easy puzzle, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Just do this. But that's the idea of the puzzle, right? It's just that they're offset. It's rotated to the point where these look like they're straight, but they're actually rotated because you have to think of the whole panel as being rotated. There's a slight glitch along this edge here as far as the rendering goes, but I suppose that's not that important. And now we start to get an indication that things are going to get bad. Because what if we moved that, right? So we got these two purple ones in the corners that have to be connected somehow. So we can't go around it that way. So that makes this a little bit tricky, because that means we have to separate, I believe, that means we have to more or less separate it on the right side, right? Oh, this is tricky. Gotta go through those two blacks there, and then we get that. Oh, nope, I didn't do it correctly. We have to separate on the right side, I know that, just based on the fact that we can't draw around the tip of this, right? Means that we have to end on that right side. But that does not, in fact, tell us how we need to separate the other colors. And it definitely looks like it would be easier if we could put black in the center. Let's see. We could do this. That's not going to work because there's just no way. Yeah, maybe it's not possible to put black in the center. Dastardly fool. Okay, let's see. Well, we can definitely grab white like this somehow, but I just don't think that's gonna work, because then we're separating. Oh no, oh my gosh, wait, no. No, I thought that was it. It's hard to tell because the thing does shift around. And there's a lot of these little gaps that you can't draw through, that your brain tends to forget about when you're trying to actually do this. But I thought we could group those together. Well, maybe we draw around the left side. Maybe I'm totally wrong. Yep, draw around the left side. So I was right about that, like, that goes around, and that's the right and the top grouped together on this side, but it's one line that divides the center. But man, that's tricky. That one's actually fairly tricky. Well, this one's so screwed up, it's sparking. Yeah. So here, this one, like, looks like it's gonna be easy until you start, like, drawing it, and then it turns into a nightmare. So, now it's just a left and right thing, right? So it's just if you're on the right side, it moves quickly, and if you're on the left, it doesn't. So here it's best to, like, plan ahead, because otherwise you're gonna end up dizzy. And just sort of imagine what you're drawing. Like, it's already making me dizzy just looking at it. For that little bit. You could argue that these are cruel, but I don't know. I like them. So this is fairly straightforward. You just do this, and then this, and then down, right? So it's best to, like, kind of not think too much about the puzzle and just do it. So this one is, like, even more cruel because now we're rotating, which is, like, really gonna make you dizzy. But this is where, like, the meta aspect of how the drawing works to your advantage if you can just think about that, right? Because otherwise you're gonna sit here and be like, oh, trying to, like, press the direction that the thing's going, and it's wrong, right? But up, it's actually always relative to your cursor, so up always goes up, right? So up always goes up, pretty much. So if you go up, it's up. Except it's going left for some reason at the end there. Not sure why. That's a little bit odd. But in any case. So here, to get through these dots, you basically just zigzag, right? You can just zigzag it. And so that's not so bad because, you know, if you're just trying to draw that, then you don't really have to think about where it's rotated. You can just go right, up, left, up, right on your stick, right? I guess it's the same with the mouse as well. Okay, so now we've got orange wire running over there. So we've got magenta, orange. This thumbstick needs to get cleaned a little bit. It is a bit sticky. I made donuts yesterday, and I think I got sugar on my controller after making those donuts. Anyway, so we got blue, orange, and magenta, and then we've got another set on the right side here to do. So let's do those. Yeah, this video is not going to cover a ton, so I'm going to cut this off after an hour. I don't know if I'm going to go ahead and do the second part. I think I'm not. I think I'm just going to do this 1 hour, and then we'll come back to it in a month or so. Okay, so now we want to just do the right side, which, ooh. So the right side is actually trickier to do because we don't have the ability to just cut off white. I don't know, maybe it's not that tricky because we can just do like this. We actually got both sides. I don't know if we can walk through there, but through the center bit, but we've got both sides. Can we walk through here? No, we can't walk through here, can we? No. Okay. Alright, so now let's do these, which are actually not as horrible as what we just did. But, so like I said, a bit of the theme, of, at least of this floor, is like puzzles that are obscured in some way, right? There's something obscuring you from seeing the puzzle. Something getting in the way. Whether that's like there's a bunch of junk around you, it's a mess. Whether that's like the screen you're looking at is screwed up. You kind of wonder whether this is inspired by Jonathan Blow having a monitor dying. I know I have like this monitor actually that I'm looking at right now. Occasionally just like freaks out. It's been like that since I bought it. It was like a refurb monitor, so presumably it had that problem and somebody returned it, and they just sold it as refurb. But with that said, it was only like $150 for like a 32-inch 4K monitor, so I can't really complain. And it only does that like, I don't know, maybe once or twice a day. It just briefly flickers. So it really doesn't matter. But in any case, it's something it made me think about. So here, obviously, you know, the experienced player knows that there's an obscured hexagon. But most players are probably just going to solve it like this, right? And say, well, okay, let's get those black. And it's like, oh no, there's a bit there, right? So I think that's the only hexagon on that one, but it does plant that seed of like, oh, there could be something hidden in underneath the thing, right? And then over here we've got this checkerboard pattern, which is like even worse because like some of these checks align with cells and look kind of like the stones that we're trying to separate. So you just sort of have to see through the matrix here. Oh, I missed that one because that's almost entirely obscured. So we definitely have to go this way with that. Don't know if there's another hexagon, but yep, there is there. Okay, so there's that. And now we've got what? Now we've got white squares or white stones. And we've got a Tetris block. Now the Tetris block is partially obscured, so we can't tell whether it is this or whether it's this. However, we do have another instrument at our disposal besides our eyes, which is that we can do that to test, right? So, okay, it's actually that. So, we know that whatever we do has to include that as part of the solve, right? It has to include this. It looks like we can just do this, though. Okay. Fairly straightforward on that. Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. Now we start getting into Future Dome. So now we've got alternating checks. Like, we get a checkerboard, same as this, but we get alternating checks. And it also alternates between white and black. And of course, there's white and black stones, so that makes things very hard to see. There's definitely a hexagon there, a white stone there. There's a hexagon here that I missed already. There's a white stone here. There's a black stone there, which makes me think that I probably need to continue along this way somewhere. There's a black stone there, a white stone there, black stone here, white stone here. This looks okay. Okay. And this is just very difficult to see much of anything because there's this like small grill, just kind of obscures things. It makes everything very dark. So you sort of have to rely on the error flashing to see that there's hexagons even. So there's a hexagon there, and there's white here. Is this the same puzzle as this one? No, that would have been hilarious. It is not, as far as I can tell, but it would be hilarious. Okay, actually I can't see what I'm looking at. Okay, there's one hexagon there and one hexagon there. So, fairly straightforward puzzle, but very obscured. Very obscured. And, of course, we have to solve this again in a way to get over here. But now we have this, what do we call this? Teal? Aquamarine? Turquoise? Not sure. Cyan? These colors. We got blue, we got magenta, we've got orange, and we've got this kind of blue-green. I'm always thinking about the color usage in this, because it may or may not be meticulously thought out. I'll certainly say for my own game, it's often not meticulously thought out. A lot of times there's a conflict that I have between wanting to use colors to communicate certain things and wanting to use colors that are readable and just having variety, right? Sometimes variety is the most important one, and so oftentimes it just falls to, well, they're orange because it was interesting, right? But I will still try to do stuff like, okay, this area is sort of referenced by this color, right? So panels of this color, that might be a little subtle clue that this is this type of puzzle because it's a callback to that area. But sometimes it really is just about variety or making things more interesting looking. It's tricky. It's hard to get that balance right. Anyway, so we got to end up here. Seems straightforward, except that I also have to go through here, I believe, because we need to be able to walk the whole path. Which also means I need to go here. I think that that's actually good. Except it is not, because I'm off. Yeah, that's not going to work. It is not going to work. That's also not going to work. I thought... So we have to go through there. That's not this. That doesn't go through there. go here, then that also doesn't go through there. We've done that initially. Now I'm having the real struggle, which is I've literally already done this. So we go up that way, but that doesn't really work for me. Am I wrong? I thought this worked, but it doesn't. I can clearly see we're misaligned. Like we have to go through here, this way. If I go here, maybe that was it. This and then back over here. Yeah, that's it. Okay. God, this thumbstick, I'm really gonna have to break this out and clean it after we're done here. So now we've made it to our exit door, which may have not obviously been a door. So there's another one of these little arches, these little rings. So this one conceals an old woman being amontillado in by books. I don't know if it's an old woman or an old man, but it's definitely a very old person being amontilladoed in by books. Right? Being buried alive by books deep inside the bowels of the mountain. And you head down, and there's nice waterfall here. Don't know how loud this waterfall is. Probably pretty loud. I've got it turned down on my end, so somebody's been carving away windmills, it looks like. A lot of different possibilities for windmills, aren't there? Some little tree houses also. Lots of different ideas. A nice view that we can, I believe, end our video on. And we'll resume this delving into the mountain next time. I did just think about something, which is that I kind of wanted this to be released coinciding with the Secret Witness Society's looking at the inside of the mountain. But it might coincide more with the end of that, because I have that other video to get released publicly first. But in any case, thanks everybody for watching. This video is supported by generous donations of the Sexy Hikers Club, which is only over on OnlyFans. You can find a link to that in the description. If you would like to support making these videos, you also get access to them a month earlier than everybody else, which is a nice perk, I would say. Very exclusive club at the moment, but we'd be happy to have you over there. In any case, what else can I say? Also, if you found this analysis interesting, I would like to let you know that I'm making a game myself that is a Witness-inspired game. It's called Taiji, and there should be a little blip that comes up for a trailer to that, and of course you can find more about that on the channel here, and link in the description about that. So, in any case, hope you'll join me for next time when we keep looking at the, I guess you call this the Endgame area, but the inside of the mountain here in the Witness. And I'll see you all then. Have a good one, everybody. Bye-bye.